you and I, normally we say that human live for 100 years, right? Brahma, who is the creator of the universe, also lives for 100 years. There is only one difference. His 100 year is equal to 1000 Mahayuga. So in that sense, his one day is 4.32 billion years. When Brahma dies, this all just disappears. Then a new universe is created. And this is not the only Brahma. There are many other Brahmas. Hamara four-dimensional Brahma hai, to hamara four-head wala Brahma hai, who has who is managing the 4 dimensions. कई और universe में 11 dimensions हो सकते हैं, 7 dimensions हो सकते हैं. तो वहाँ का ब्रह्मा का brain और बड़ा होना चाहिए ना, because he has
so there are multiple Brahmas.
According to Hinduism, yes, there are multiple Brahmas.
You also talk about Kala, and now this was one of the most interesting aspects for me in the book, because in the Eastern philosophy we don't see time as a linear thing, we see it as a cyclical thing, right? And in the book there's somewhere I think so this is mentioned that time is a man-made thing for the higher consciousness. Past, present and future, it's all the same thing, it's running equally for him or her. So can you dive deeper into this?
Okay, so so the way time works, and time is a very very intricate concept. In fact, let's talk a bit of physics here. So when we had Newtonian mechanics in the time of Newton, we viewed time as something that flows equally and universally throughout the universe, right? Then came Einstein, and our modern understanding of time is very much influenced by Einstein's theory, which basically says that time flows differently at different places, right? So how does it flow differently? When you are going through a massive, a thing which has massive gravity, time slows. Similarly, when you are going closer to the velocity of light, time slows, right? So there is a time dilation element involved there. So fundamentally, what we are trying to say is that what is time? And it's very, very difficult and intricate concept, but time is basically through which you experience everything, right? So in fact, in the book, I have quoted Einstein, and I love this quote. Time is something that prevents everything from happening at once, right? समय वो है जो हर चीज को एकदम से होने में अवरोध करता है, क्योंकि अगर समय नहीं होगा तो your death and birth and whatever happened in the middle वो तो एक ही टाइम पे हो जाएगा, खत्म हो गया, right? So time is something that creates a distance between this, right? अगर distance होगा तभी आपके experience होंगे, because when we say I've experienced something, what you're meaning? You're saying that I've felt this in time, right? So from a very philosophical point of view, time is basically, as I said, so universe has, according to Sanatan Dharma, according to our philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita, it says the universe has 24 elements. Okay, these 24 elements make up the universe. But these 24 elements come into being when time is blown into the universe. So time in that sense becomes the 25th element, which records all these 24 elements and how they interact with each other. Okay, so that's one very philosophical explanation of what time is. Now, as you were saying that people can see present, past, and the future in one. So in one of the chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna takes up this so-called Virat Roop. Virat Roop means massive form. In that massive form, Krishna sees that millions of galaxies are coming out of Krishna, and millions of them are getting
so this is right? This is the Vishwaroop you are talking about?
I'm trying to link it to Vishwaroop. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a time that runs for everybody. It's just different scale. For example, you and I, normally we say that human live for 100 years, right? Brahma, who is the creator of the universe, also lives for 100 years. There is only one difference. His 100 year is equal to 1000 Mahayuga. So in that sense, his one day is 4.32 billion years. So if you multiply 4.32 billion years with lifespan of 100 years, 4.32 billion years multiplied by 100 years that he's going to live, and each year is going to be 360 days, and then there are equal number of nights, then you will come to the conclusion that Brahma lives for 311 trillion years, and you and I live only for 100 years. So everybody even the Brahma's life comes to an end, right? And then a new universe gets created. So everybody is impacted by time. Nobody can escape time. Okay. So that's there. And similarly, Indra is the lord of Swarg. So Indra also has a lifespan, and in Indra's world, his one day is equal to 1 year of human. So just say Brahma ka 1 day is equal to 1,000 Mahayuga, and I'll explain Mahayuga in a bit. But just let's understand what is Divya Yuga. Oh, sorry, what is Divya Din? Basically, what is 1 day of Devas?
Right.
So their 1 day is equal to 360 days of human. Okay. So, but they also live 100 years, but just that their day is longer. Or you can say they live on a different planet where the day slows down. You can either ways you interpret, right? So Brahma is said to live in Satyog, Satlok, Satyalok, and
Satyalok.
and Indra is supposed to be living in Swarg. So you can just assume that the time is moving at a different pace there. Now, what is Mahayuga? So we know about yuga and time cycle, and you talked about circular time. So we in Hinduism we talk about the 4 yugas, which collectively are called Mahayuga. What are these 4 yuga? तो ये 4 युग आपके सतयुग, त्रेता युग, द्वापर युग और फिर कलयुग. तो जो कलयुग है जिसमें हम अभी हैं, अब ये कलयुग कितना बड़ा है पहले ये समझ लेते हैं. ये कलयुग अलोन 4,32,000 साल बड़ा है. So it's 432,000, nearly half a million years. इतना बड़ा कलयुग है. अभी कितना निकल गया इसमें से कभी अभी केवल 5,000 साल ही गए हैं. When Krishna departed the planet Earth, that's when the Kali Yuga is supposed to have started, which is 18th February 30102 BC. That's when it started. अभी 5,000 साल गए हैं, तो अभी कलयुग पूरा का पूरा बचा है. अब कलयुग के बाद सतयुग आएगा. सतयुग is 4 times the duration of कलयुग. उसके बाद त्रेता आएगा. त्रेता युग is 3 times. That's why it's called Treta, because 3 times. Then द्वापर युग is 2 times the duration of कलयुग. Then कलयुग आएगा. तो अब इसको अगर आप ऐड करेंगे 4 + 3 + 2 + 1 तो 10 हो जाएगा. यानी कि जो पूरा महायुग है वो 10 times the कलयुग ड्यूरेशन है. यानी कि एक महायुग 4.32 मिलियन ईयर्स है. अब ब्रह्मा जो है his lifespan is 1000 of this. तो वो 4.32 को जब आप मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे 1000 से तो 4.32 बिलियन हो जाएगा. So that is his day. और उतनी ही नाइट भी है by the way. तो 8.6 बिलियन years. अब इसमें इंटरेस्टिंग चीज क्या है, and this is where I'm going to link it to science, Jayesh. हम कहते हैं कि यूनिवर्स according to our current theories, universe is 13.7 billion years old. और हम कहते हैं कि ब्रह्मा का एक डे जो है 8.6 billion years है. Can you see the scale? They're so close to each other. And when Brahma is awake, the universe is created. When Brahma is sleeping, the universe is getting depleted, or it's basically I would not say getting destroyed, but it basically goes into that sleeping mode, like Big Bang, Big Crunch, Big Bang, Big Crunch, Big Bang, Big Crunch. Or when Brahma dies, this all just disappears. Then a new universe is created. And this is not the only Brahma. There are many other Brahmas. हमारा 4-dimensional Brahma है, तो हमारा 4-head वाला Brahma है, who is managing the 4 dimensions. कई और यूनिवर्स में 11 dimensions हो सकते हैं, 7 dimensions हो सकते हैं. तो वहां का ब्रह्मा का ब्रेन और बड़ा होना चाहिए ना, because he has to manage. So there are multiple Brahmas. According to Hinduism, yes, there are multiple Brahmas, and many Brahmas have come and many Brahmas have gone. Within those Brahmas, many एक ब्रह्मा के दिन में 14 मनवंतरा होता है. मनवंतरा मतलब मनु अंतर, जिसमें एक मनु चेंज होता है. एक मनवंतरा के अंदर में 72 बार जो है महायुग चेंज होता है. ठीक है. तो ऐसे ऐसे करके कैलकुलेशंस हैं जो श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 3 में दिए हुए हैं. तो ये very long answer to what time is, and time is not an easy thing to grasp. But beauty here, Jayesh, is कि ये जो हम modern understanding of time बोलते हैं ना, circular time, ending time, starting time, time is flowing at different space at different places. These we are talking now in modern science, but they have been discussed in great detail in our scriptures long time back, and that is how we should appreciate the beauty of our scriptures. Right.
But then when you were explaining all of this, I felt so small in this vast universe. And now I have genuinely, I want to ask you, then what is the purpose of everything? And I'm sure Bhagavad Gita answers this. So can you dive into this? Because this legit made me feel कि इतना सब कुछ है and I am so small. Then what is my purpose? Like, what am I doing?
जयेश, कभी सर नीचे करके ऊपर आसमान में देखा है? So we live on this planet Earth, which is everything to us, right?
Yeah.
You could be the richest king ever, the biggest billionaire ever, the biggest tyrant ever, whatever, right? jitna bhi hai wo is this on this piece of rock called Earth. That's where it is. This piece of rock called Earth is nothing in the solar system. That solar system is nothing in the Milky Way. That Milky Way is nothing in the billions of other galaxies. Those billions of galaxies are nothing in the vast universe, right? It is speculated that there are more galaxies in the universe than the number of grains in all the beaches on the Earth, right? Right? So itna ज़्यादा बड़ा है. तो in space you are nothing. We just established that. अभी मैंने बोला कि in time also you are nothing, because time ही इतना, even one day of Brahma is so big that you are nothing in that whole thing. So basically, if you look at it, you are just a speck, and not even a speck. Speck is an overstatement, right? So that then leads to us ki, when I am going with this egoistic view, let me get so much more money, let me create this wealth, let me do this or that, right? What is the point? Ultimately, this is just satisfying your own ego. I mean, in a very modified way. Whatever you're doing, you're satisfying your ego. Like whether you are building a big company or you're writing books, it is just trying to outlive the death which eventually hits everybody, right? So you are all trying to build a legacy, right? From that point of view, that is what you're trying to do. But what is important here to understand is that no matter how big your legacy is, even the universe comes to an end. So what to talk about what you are going to create? So that then leads to us to think, so then what is the purpose of life? And that's a very good question. And that I answer in my Ikigai book, which is also inspired by the Gita book. So Jayesh, what is important to look is to look our life maybe backwards, and then it starts making sense. Let's say, Jayesh, if today were your last day, right? I mean, it's a very morbid thought, but let's just imagine. Somebody walks down and gets hit by a car, and that happens to be, and the guy lands up in an ICU in a hospital. At that time, the only thought the person would have is, was my life a success? Was I happy? Or did I regret my life? And if at that time you think, oh, my life was not a success, I wish I had done this, I wish I had done that, then obviously you know that you wanted to change something in your life, right? When you know that you want to change something in your life, what are you waiting for? The irony of life is that your lifeline is also your deadline, or your deadline is your lifeline, and you don't know when that deadline suddenly hits. So if you know that you're not happy with your life right now and you want to change something, what are you waiting for? And therein lies your answer, Jayesh. What happens is, when you are gone, people are not going to talk about how much wealth you made. People are not going to talk about your good grades. People are not going to talk about whatever accolades you had in your life, whatever awards you won. What they're going to talk about is, did you make a difference to anybody else's life other than yourself? The nice things you did for people, the wonderful ways in which you impacted somebody else's life. And that is in some sense the essence of life, realizing that you are an individual soul, but then there are millions of other souls who are all in some sense fellow astronauts on this planet called Earth, and how you can connect to each of them and help each of them traverse this journey of life, which inherently is a journey of struggle. There is not a single person I have met who doesn't have struggle in their life, even if they are billionaires. We know about Jeff Bezos, we know about Elon Musk, we know about Bill Gates. All of them are very rich, but all of them are divorced, right? So ultimately, they also have pain in their life, right? It's not that they are spared from pain, right? So if you ask them, they would be happy to give up some of that money to have a more loving relationship, but unfortunately they didn't, right? So ultimately, the purpose of life is to think of yourself over and beyond yourself. Okay, let me just explain what that means. So in Sanskrit, there is a shloka, it's called Athato Brahma Jigyasu. Now that you have the human life, inquire what? Inquire who you are, right? And in answering and inquiring who you are, you will realize that you are more than an animal. You're not an animal, because animals and humans are both doing kind of identical activities. They are both doing what I call seed: sleeping, eating, entertaining, defending, right? A lot of activities we do, you can club it into one of these. Even when we are procreating, that is kind of entertainment. Whatever animals are defending, we are also defending. Animals have simple ways to defend. We have pistols and armies and insurance
more
policies.
Complex ways.
More complex ways, but we are doing the same thing. But if our only purpose of life is to sleep better on a soft bed, eat better in a Michelin star restaurant, entertain better with sophisticated means of entertainment, and defend ourselves better, then what is the difference between us and animal? Right? So that's when you need to think you have a greater purpose. And in my opinion, this is what I think, your purpose is to help others discover their purpose. How would you do that? By helping them in navigating this journey. And that happens naturally. That happens naturally when as I told you, even when I was explaining you karma, when you start giving to others, naturally you come to a stage when you start thinking about others. And when you do that, you intrinsically start thinking that all of us are connected in some way. And you will come to that realization, but that's a process. It doesn't happen on one day. On the first day when you donate something to somebody, you're still thinking, okay, how has it made my life better or that person's life better? But gradually you come to a stage when you realize that you're not helping other, you're helping yourself.
Yes.
So, but that's a realization.
Correct. So this actually reminds me that I was doing this one podcast with a monk, and when I asked him ki, what is the purpose of life according to you, and he told me that the purpose of life is to expand. And I asked him to elaborate what does expand exactly mean. He told me it is to give, it is to love, it is to donate, it is to help. And this is the same concept which is written in the Gita as well. Which is very overwhelming for someone who has just got into understanding. I literally have goosebumps because I realized ki, okay, it is such a vast universe. There's so much of time that has gone and it will come again. And you are just this little something here. So it is tough to take it in.
It's a very humbling concept, because we always worked, we always are motivated by our ego to do something, right? As I said, everything is a modification of death. You are trying to outlive death, right? Even when you procreate, even when you have babies, you're trying to outlive death, right? Even when you create the biggest companies, even when you write the best of the books, right? You're in some sense trying to that desire to outlive death is very, very strong. And so but when that monk told you expand yourself, what he was telling is, when you're talking about love, when you're talking about charity, you're basically thinking of beyond yourself, right? That's what he means. When he says love, he means love other humans. That's connecting to other people at the level of soul, trying to understand that all of us are intrinsically connected, right? So that will not happen until and unless you have reached the realization that when I'm helping others, I'm actually helping myself, right? In some sense, you can call it selfish, but it's not selfish in the way we understand selfish. It's magnanimous. It's not selfish. It's the reality of understanding that there is nothing but the self. And that's when the concept of this Atman and Brahman comes in, where Brahman is this concept that the entire universe is Brahman, everything is Brahman, but you are Atman. So you are a small entity in that, but everything is intrinsically connected. It's a bit like this pen, right? So if this tip of this pen is also the pen, and the whole thing is also the pen, right? Or but this tip is not the pen in entirety, right? When it's connected to the whole. So similarly, the whole universe, whether it's material universe, which is basically the five elements, or it's the spiritual element, which is basically the soul, they're all intrinsically connected. So when you are trying, when your monk said expand yourself, he meant it he said it very beautifully. He meant it at multiple levels. Intellectually expand yourself. Try to understand that you are beyond this body. Try to understand that everything else is connected. And then once you understand that, the feeling of love, the feeling of giving to others, the feeling of helping others, that's a natural outcome, right? You don't start cutting your hand, right? I mean, your left hand doesn't start cutting your right hand, right? Why? Because you know ki pain tumhi ko hoga, right? So once you reach that realization, you're actually loving yourself, and in loving yourself, you're loving the humanity.
So basically what you're trying to say is ki, like, you and I are the same person in a way. The soul, the concept of soul, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah. So the concept of soul is a unifying concept, and the way we explain it in our scriptures is it's a bit like a drop and the ocean. So the drop has all the same properties of the ocean. It has the same properties, right? It wets, it flows. It is the same H2O, which the whole ocean is, right? So that is what I'm trying to say. When you realize that the big ocean is the same as me, small, just the quantity is different, that's when you realize the oneness with the whole universe. But it's intellectually we can debate on this till the cows come home, but it is something to realize.
Yeah, right. So have you seen this animation short film? It is called The Egg. I think so. It is on one of this same concept, which is ki there's this man who died in an accident, and his soul reaches to the God, to the higher consciousness, and he is having a conversation. So the higher consciousness explains him that your soul was a part of me, and everyone around you is a part of me. So in a way, when you were hating on someone, when you were beating someone, you were actually beating yourself. So that is what you're trying to say exactly.
That I'm not trying to say that, I'm saying that. So essentially, see, the thing is that, as I said, your right hand doesn't cut your left hand, because the consequence is going to come back and bite you. Now, what happens in this case when we try to harm others? Because our minds are also limited, right? We are not immediately able to see the consequence of it. But trust me, sooner or later, it's going to come back and bite you. And that is, in some sense, the law of karma. When the law of karma tells you that be nice to others, in a very simplistic thing, what it's saying is be nice to yourself. Because if you are going to be not nice to others, in a long about way through the laws of karma, it's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah. And the whole story of Mahabharata is that. It is the explanation of karma ki kahan se start hua, and फिर it comes to the same point. And also you talked about ocean and a drop in it. So by the ocean, you meant the higher consciousness, you meant the God, right? So what is God? Like, I have been asking this to monks, I have been asking this to scientists and every intellectual, and I have never gotten a specific answer ki, okay, this is God. So how does Bhagavad Gita tell us ki what is God?
So Bhagavad Gita, so what is God is a very potent subject. And as you said, scientists, philosophers, monks, intellectuals, all of them have debated on it. In fact, in my book also, there is a chapter of who is God. And the way I have, and we, no way that is a seminal work on this. It's just my interpretation. So the thing is, there are many ways to look at God, right? I'll start I'll start with the most simple one, and then we will look at other ways. So you see, in the simplest term, God conceptually is God, generator, operator, destroyer. One who is generating the universe, operating the universe, and destroying the universe, right? In some sense, that Trimurti, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, right?
Correct.
So that we conceptually understand. Whether there is a Brahma, there is a Vishnu, or there is a Mahesh, forget that. But conceptually, you understand that there must be a creator, there must be an operator, there must be a destroyer, right? So that's at a very fundamental level. Now let's look at this scientifically, what God would mean. So the universe came into being, right? And the universe is expanding. We also know that. And the beauty of the universe is that it's expanding faster than the speed of light. Okay. And we know from our modern science, from Einstein's theories, that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. So if you're trying to get some information from somewhere, it has to, it can only come to us if it is, okay, let me put it this way. The universe itself is expanding faster than the speed of light. Okay. And some information from there in form of light or whatever is trying to come to us. But the whole thing itself is going faster than it can ever come to you. So it's a bit like travelator. Travelator पे अगर आप चल रहे हो, वो लेफ्ट जा रहा है और उस पे आप राइट दौड़ने लगो, बट वो ट्रैवलेटर इतनी तेज चल रहा है कि आप कभी ट्रेडमिल पे जैसे आप भाग रहे हो, तो वो कभी आप इसका एंड पे पहुंच ही नहीं पाओगे, राइट? तो उसी तरह से क्या हो रहा है कि वहां से इंफॉर्मेशन तो आ रही है बट आपको मिल नहीं रही है, बिकॉज वो इतनी तेजी से दूर जा रहा है कि आपको आपके स्फेयर में वो आ नहीं पा रहा है. तो इस तरह से जो मॉडर्न साइंस में हम क्या बोलते हैं कि द एंटायर यूनिवर्स, जो जितना हम देख सकते हैं, गिवन नो मैटर हाउ एडवांस आवर टेक्नोलॉजीज गेट, हम उससे ज्यादा नहीं देख सकते. वो 46 बिलियन लाइट ईयर है. एंड बिलियन लाइट ईयर इज बेसिकली, एक लाइट ईयर है द अमाउंट ऑफ डिस्टेंस लाइट ट्रेवल्स इन अ ईयर, एंड इन 1 सेकेंड द लाइट ट्रेवल्स 300,000 या 3 लाख किलोमीटर ट्रेवल कर जाती है. ठीक है. तो अब हम बोल रहे हैं 46 बिलियन लाइट ईयर का जो गोला है, इतना ही देख सकते हो, उससे ज्यादा नहीं देख सकते. करंट टेक्नोलॉजी जो है 14.5 बिलियन ईयर ही देख सकती है, इतना देख सकते हो, इतना बड़ा गोला देख सकते हो. The amount you can see is this big. अब उसके बाहर क्यों नहीं देख सकते? क्योंकि वहां से जो गैलेक्सीज है वो इतनी तेजी से बाहर जा रही है कि वहां से इंफॉर्मेशन अंदर नहीं आ सकती। तो इतना ही आप देख सकते हो। धीरे धीरे ये सारी गैलेक्सीज दूर जा रही हैं बहुत तेजी से। एक टाइम आएगा खाली मिल्की वे देख सकते हो, बाहर सब गायब हो जाएगा, पूरा ब्लैक हो जाएगा, पूरा डार्क हो जाएगा, राइट? सो बाहर से कोई इंफॉर्मेशन आ नहीं रही है, बट हम स्पेकुलेट कर रहे हैं वहां पे क्या है, राइट? वी आर ट्राइंग टू गेस। तो इसको इस तरह से समझिए आप कि मैं सिंगापुर में बैठा हूं। सिंगापुर इतना छोटा सा है, एक डॉट दिखता है मैप में। सिंगापुर में बैठ के मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि अच्छा बाहर की दुनिया में क्या होता होगा। अच्छा उधर वहां पे मे बी एक इंडिया है, वहां पे मे बी एक फ्रांस है, बट कभी पता नहीं ना है कि नहीं है। वहां पे वो एलियन बैठे होंगे, वहां पे कुछ और बैठा होगा, नहीं पता, बट वी आर स्पेकुलेटिंग। बट वहां से कभी हम कंफर्म नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि हम वहां से इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं आ सकती, ना हम वहां पे जा सकते हैं, ठीक है? तो इस अब अगर ऐसा है तो एक आपने एक गॉड ऑफ गैप्स क्रिएट कर दिया ना, क्योंकि वहां की इंफॉर्मेशन हमें पता ही नहीं है। तो आप एक कॉन्सेप्चुअली बोल सकते हो कि हमें नहीं पता है, बट द पर्सन हु नोज इट ऑल इज ओमनिसिएंट, उसको गॉड आपने बोल दिया। दूसरी चीज को दूसरे तरह से मैं समझाता हूँ जयेश आपको। जैसे मान लीजिए कंप्यूटर है, कंप्यूटर में कीबोर्ड होता है, माउस होता है, सीपीयू होता है, सब मिलकर कंप्यूटर बनते हैं, राइट? सबसे कहते हैं कि सीपीयू इज द स्मार्टेस्ट पार्ट ऑफ द कंप्यूटर, राइट? वो ऑपरेट कर रहा होता है। अगर आप सीपीयू चाहे कि मैं पूरा कंप्यूटर समझ जाऊं, तो पॉसिबल है क्या? नहीं पॉसिबल है। आई टेल यू व्हाई। जैसे आप जो है यूनिवर्स, यू आर पार्ट ऑफ यूनिवर्स, इतना तो आप अग्री करते हो। While being the part of the universe, you're trying to understand the whole of the universe. It's like CPU is a part of the computer and it's trying to understand the whole of the computer. तो ये नहीं कर सकते। तो अगेन यहाँ पे गॉड ऑफ गैप्स आ गया कि आपका एक इंटेलेक्चुअल लेवल जो है और कितना भी एडवांस जाए उसमें एक गैप आ जाएगा, एक उसके ऊपर आप नहीं जा सकते। तो इसको मैथमेटिशियंस ने अलग अलग तरह से डिफाइन किया है। इसको चैटिन्स थ्योरम बोला है, राइट? जिसमें इसमें आपकी एक लिमिट आ जाती है, इससे ज्यादा आप नहीं जान सकते हो। तो इस तरह से साइंस में भी एक लिमिटेशंस आने लगती हैं। इसको गोडल्स इनइक्वालिटी भी बोलते हैं कि हाउ मच कैन यू एवर नो, देयर इज अ पॉइंट बियॉन्ड व्हिच you cannot prove whether this is true or false without getting in new axioms into the equation. तो मैथमेटिशियंस ने बहुत सारा काम किया है इस पे। तो अल्टीमेटली ये रियलाइज्ड प्रॉब्लम है कि बोथ मैथ्स एंड फिजिक्स में मैथमेटिकल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ये रियलाइज्ड है कि यू कैन नॉट हैव अ थ्योरी ऑफ एवरीथिंग। फिजिक्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ये रियलाइज्ड है कि थ्योरी आप बाहर से इंफॉर्मेशन आप अंदर आ ही नहीं रही, तो उसकी थ्योरी क्या बनाओगे? मैं सिंगापुर में बैठ के वर्ल्ड मैप बना लूं, जब मेरे को बाहर दिख ही नहीं रहा है कि वर्ल्ड कैसा है, तो मैं कैसे बना सकता हूँ? तो मैं स्पेकुलेट कर सकता हूँ खाली, अरे वहां एक गोला होगा, वहां एक गोला होगा, वहां एक पानी होगा, बट आई डोंट नो ना कि अमेरिका का डायग्राम कैसा लगता है। मुझे इन्फॉर्मेशन वहां से नहीं आ रही है, उसको जानने के लिए तो वहां एक्सप्लोर करना पड़ेगा, वो कर नहीं सकते। तो इस तरह से बोथ फिजिक्स और मैथ्स में आपका एक गॉड ऑफ गैप्स आ गया, ठीक है? अब इसी तो वी अंडरस्टैंड कि इंटेलेक्चुअली हम गॉड नहीं समझ सकते, तो अब इसको समझे कैसे? तो इंटेलेक्चुअली नहीं भी समझ सकते तो और भी तरीके हैं, थ्रू अदर वेज दैट यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड। तो अलग अलग, जैसे हम कहते हैं, हम ये एक वर्ड यूज करते हैं भगवान। तो भगवान is God, that is true, but let's understand what Bhagwan means. So Bhagwan is basically, you can break it down into two, Bhagya plus Van. Van means possessor, Bhagya means opulences. So somebody who has opulences, और ये opulences 6 defined हैं। इसमें beauty है, renunciation है, wealth है, strength है, fame है। तो इस तरह से 6 opulences defined किए हैं। तो ये बोला है जिसके पास में ये 6 opulences हैं, and not just हैं, they are हैं in full. Aishwarya Rai is slightly more prettier than somebody and we already like, oh wow, she's so pretty. बिल गेट्स के पास थोड़ा सा ज्यादा पैसा है, इससे कितना पैसा है। अब ये सोचो कि बिल गेट्स के पास कितना भी पैसा हो गया, ही इज नॉट रिचर देन द वर्थ ऑफ द अर्थ, है ना? जो पैसा बनाया दुनिया में बनाया ना। एंड द ऐसे अर्थ है, ऐसे सोलर सिस्टम है, ऐसे मिल्की वे है, ऐसे गैलेक्सीज हैं। somebody who possesses all of that, उसके पास कितनी वेल्थ होगी, राइट? and yet he is renounced to it because he is not attached to it. So renunciation भी attractive होती है। कोई साधु महात्मा है, क्यों अट्रैक्टिव है? बिकॉज ही हैज रिनाउंस समथिंग, राइट? कोई ब्यूटीफुल पर्सन है तो क्यों अट्रैक्टिव है? क्योंकि वो ब्यूटीफुल है। कोई अमीर आदमी है तो क्यों अट्रैक्टिव? क्योंकि वो अमीर है। कोई स्ट्रॉन्ग आदमी है तो क्यों अट्रैक्टिव? क्योंकि वो स्ट्रॉन्ग है। अब आप ये सोचो, ये सब ह्यूमंस हैं और थोड़ा सा ही एक्स्ट्रा है हमारे से, ज्यादा एक्स्ट्रा नहीं है। जो स्मार्टेस्ट पर्सन, जो इंटेलिजेंट है, आपका IQ 120 होगा या 100 होगा, तो उसका 150 160 होगा, 200 होगा, उससे ज्यादा तो नहीं हो सकता ना। तो बट व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज कि थोड़ा सा भी ज्यादा होता है तो हम लोग को इमीडिएटली अट्रैक्टिव हो जाता है। अब ये सोचो कि somebody who has all the beauty in the world, somebody who has all the strength in the world, तो conceptually you are saying आप बेसिकली यू आर डिफाइनिंग यूजिंग एडजेक्टिव्स कि ये गॉड है, जिसके पास सारी स्ट्रेंथ है, जिसके पास सारी ब्यूटी है, वो गॉड हो गया, तो उसको हम भगवान बोलते हैं। इस तरह से एक कॉन्सेप्ट आता है परमात्मा। तो परमात्मा मीन्स परम आत्मा, आत्मा इज सोल एंड परम इज सुप्रीम, द सुप्रीम सोल। तो हम कहते हैं आत्मा और परमात्मा दोनों आपके हार्ट में है। तो somebody who is trying to establish this loving relationship with this परमात्मा, वो अपने अंदर ढूंढ रहा है, ठीक है। इसी तरह से then we have this भगवान का कॉन्सेप्ट आपको बोल दिया, परमात्मा का बोल दिया, ईश्वर। सो ईश्वर इज द सुप्रीम कंट्रोलर, जो सब कुछ कंट्रोल करता है, द ऑल केपेबल। तो ईश्वर का मतलब होता है ऑल केपेबल, somebody who is capable of everything। तो ये भी आपने एडजेक्टिव बोल के आपने डिफाइन कर दिया कि गॉड क्या है। अब इसी में एक कॉन्सेप्ट आता है ब्रह्मन। ब्रह्मन इज बेसिकली द सम टोटल ऑफ द एंटायर यूनिवर्स। तो आपने बोल दिया सम टोटल ऑफ एवरीथिंग इज ब्रह्मन। सो दीज आर द वेज टू अंडरस्टैंड गॉड। बट लेट मी जस्ट एक्सप्लेन स्लाइटली, जो आप रिलेट कर सकते हैं। जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं साइंस, राइट? तो हम साइंस बोलते हैं, और साइंस को कैसे समझते हैं? साइंस को हम फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री, बायोलॉजी, इंजीनियरिंग के थ्रू समझते हैं। तो वही मैं एनालॉजी यूज करता हूँ कि साइंस के अलग अलग ब्रांचेस आप बना देते हैं समझने के लिए। तो आप केमिस्ट्री बोलते हैं, फिजिक्स बोलते हैं, बायोलॉजी बोलते हैं, इंजीनियरिंग बोलते हैं। तो जो ब्राह्मण है, दैट इज अ बिट लाइक फिजिक्स कॉन्सेप्ट, जिसमें यूनिवर्स आप समझ रहे हो, मैटर कैसे चल रहा है वो समझ रहे हो, ये सब चीजें समझ रहे हो, तो ब्राह्मण हो गया। सिमिलरली जब आप भगवान बोलते हो, तो भगवान इज मोर लाइक अ पर्सोनिफिकेशन। आप पर्सोनिफाई करके आप समझते हो उस चीजों को, राइट? एंड भगवान में वो basically another way of understanding God है। But let me just explain yoga, then it probably will become easier. So अलग अलग टाइप के 4 योग होते हैं। So एक भक्ति योग होता है, एक ज्ञान योग होता है, ध्यान योग होता है, कर्म योग होता है। तो जो भक्ति योग कर रहा है, वो बेसिकली ही इज ट्राइंग टू हैव अ लविंग रिलेशनशिप विद गॉड। तो लव में हम बोलते हैं कि केमिस्ट्री है, देयर इज केमिस्ट्री।
जो मीराबाई का लॉर्ड
देयर इज अ केमिस्ट्री बिटवीन देम, हम बोलते नहीं है। तो दैट पर्सन इज लाइक अ केमिस्ट, ही इज ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड गॉड थ्रू केमिस्ट्री, लव वाले एंगल से देख रहा है।
करेक्ट।
अच्छा, तो ध्यान लगा के ध्यान योग कर रहा है, वो अपने अंदर परमात्मा को ढूंढने की कोशिश कर रहा है। तो दिस पर्सन इज ट्राइंग टू लुक इनसाइड। तो इसको मैं कहता हूँ कि बायोलॉजी की तरह से साइंस समझ रहा है, बायोलॉजिस्ट की तरह से समझ रहा है, अपने अंदर समझ रहा है। इसी तरह से जो ज्ञान योगी है, वो यूनिवर्स कैसे चलता है उसको समझने की कोशिश कर रहा है। तो वो फिजिक्स का कॉन्सेप्ट समझ रहा है, वो ब्रह्मांड को समझने की कोशिश करता है, उसको मैं फिजिसिस्ट बोल देता हूँ। और जो निष्काम कर्म कर रहा है, जो बिना किसी अटैचमेंट के साथ काम कर रहा है, उसको मैं बोलता हूँ ये इंजीनियर है, ये कार करके भगवान को समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हो। तो ये अलग अलग वेज हैं, इसको आप समझ सकते हो, खाली इसको इम्बाइब कर सकते हो, इसको आप रियलाइज कर सकते हो, इसको इंटेलेक्चुअली कैप्चर नहीं कर सकते। तो वो जो गॉड का कॉन्सेप्ट है, आई हैव टोल्ड यू इन मल्टीपल वेज, through physics, through chemistry and through yoga, how you can understand God. Yoga is basically, yoga means connecting what? Connecting soul to the supreme soul. That's yoga. And then there are the 4 margas I talked about. उसमें मैंने आपको बोल दिया, एक फिजिक्स वाले का मार्ग है, एक केमिस्ट्री वाले का मार्ग है, एक बायोलॉजी वाले का मार्ग है, और इंजीनियरिंग वाले का मार्ग है। तो दैट इज द बेस्ट आई कैन एक्सप्लेन व्हाट गॉड इज। अब इससे ज्यादा मुझे पता नहीं है जयेश, आई विश आई न्यू।
राइट। वन स्मॉल क्वेश्चन, आपने जैसे कहा था कि ये बुक जो आपने लिखी है, एन एथिस्ट गेट्स द गीता, सो दिस इज द एबीसी टुवर्ड्स भगवद गीता। So I want to know ki why should someone read the Gita? Because in my understanding, Bhagavad Gita is the book of answers. So can you tell the people why should they read the Gita?
Why should someone read the Bhagavad Gita? और वो आपका क्वेश्चन स्टार्टिंग में भी जो क्वेश्चन था, why it's called an atheist gets the Gita.
Yeah.
तो basically क्या है ना, even if you take the divinity out of the Bhagavad Gita, even if you take the religious aspect out of the Bhagavad Gita, and you look at it purely from a point of view of as a book, this is the Bhagavad Gita I have in my hand, you look at it purely from the point of view, ये book है, भूल जाओ ये divine book है, भूल जाओ ये religious book है, and then look at it and open the book, and then you what should be your outcome? Anything you read, what is your outcome? You want to see, did it add any value to my life? Did it tell me something that I did not know? Did it help me lead my life better? And it turns out this book has a lot, even if you look at it from a point of view of philosophy. And when I say a lot, what is that lot? It helps you understand, who are you? Who am I? What is the purpose of my life? Where did I come from? Where am I going? Basically, it gives you a direction in your life. If I were to summarize, Bhagavad Gita is nothing but 700 shlokas, 1400 लाइन। 1400 लाइन में और आप बात कर रहे हैं ना, इससे भी छोटा कन्वर्सेशन रहा होगा, हार्डली 75 to 90 मिनट्स कन्वर्सेशन बिटवीन अर्जुना एंड कृष्णा। अब उस 1400 लाइन में क्या बदल गया? ऐसा बदल ये गया कि 1400 लाइन के पहले Arjun was directionless. उनको अपना purpose नहीं पता था life का. And when Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and to that effect, I call Krishna the world's first motivational speaker. He basically motivated Arjuna with a purpose. Arjuna was the same. Sarvashesh Dhanurdhar, the most qualified archer. In today's equivalent to 10-20 PhDs. Such a highly qualified person. Still lost. क्या करना है लाइफ में नहीं पता. How many of us have been in that situation? अच्छी स्कूल से पढ़ लिया, अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटी से पढ़ लिया, अच्छी जॉब लग गई, तो ही पता नहीं है लाइफ का पर्पस क्या है, करना क्या है वो नहीं पता. तो करना क्या है नहीं पता, तो ये किताब पढ़ो. अगर पता है कि क्या करना है तो ये किताब मत पढ़ो. तो किताब फिर आपके लिए नहीं, तो आप तो फिर then you have achieved. But if you are lost, open the book. That's the message.
Wow. Beautiful. So Rahul, thank you so much for doing this episode. I literally have goosebumps abhi tak when we talked about Kal, we talked about karma, काफी सारी चीजों को बारे में बात किया. And definitely I think we need to record one more podcast. So whenever we do that, I am looking forward to that one. And thank you so much for this one, Rahul.
जयेश, बहुत बहुत अच्छा लगा आपसे बात करके, और दोबारा आपने पॉडकास्ट की बात की. मेरा it will be my pleasure to come back here again. And we can talk about, अभी हमने ABCD की बात की, अगले पॉडकास्ट में थोड़ा हम वर्ड्स की बात कर लेंगे कि ABCD में के वर्ड्स कैसे बनते हैं. फिर आप अगला करेंगे तो सेंटेंसेस पे आ जाएंगे. But let's continue this conversation. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Same here.
Thank you. Bye.